Okay, what are we talking about today? And as you can see, I have some tape in my hand, so I bet we're going to talk about tape. And what would I possibly need red painter's tape for here at a training facility? Well, the tape gives us a target. And as you can see behind me, I have other targets. I have hurdles and I have cones, okay? And I have tape. When we're trying to become more athletic or better developing of our body control for athleticism, we tend to not think about things that actually translate directly to the sport. And what I'm talking about is if you can jump high and powerfully, that's great. If you can jump high and powerfully under control, that's even better. For sports where being specifically in one place is important, you'll know exactly what I mean. Let's say volleyball or basketball. Volleyball, if you hit the net, you have a problem. If you keep misstepping and falling into the net, you have a problem. So, how do we work on solving that problem? We focus on learning to develop our control for our landing, which is partly important to understand for our jumping. But a lot of times we never worry about that because we're too concerned with just our jump. So we don't focus on the landing. All right? Now, if we learn how to land properly, we become more athletic and capable of things like that quick double jump. So in basketball, if I'm going up for a rebound and the ball gets tipped by somebody else, and I can jump quicker to that rebound, the second bounce, I get more rebounds. If you're old enough to remember Dennis Rodman, he essentially became Defensive Player of the Year and led the league in rebounding by simply tapping enough balls in the air and then jumping the second time and grabbing it off of that tip. It's a skill that you guys can learn. It's a skill that you guys can master, and it helps to learn how to land so that you can jump again. All right, so what I'm going to do is show you the first thing that you need to focus on. When you're jumping, you got to focus on where your feet are going to land. Some people, when they jump, kind of flail away and flail out, and that's part of the problem. You have to develop a lower body control, and that means while we jump, our feet are being controlled through our musculature so that they're not doing this kick out thing that, if you'll notice, some people do instinctively. A lot of times basketball players will become cheap shot artists by jumping up and kicking forward, kicking into the groin of other people. And that's purposefully because they actually have the control to control it. All right? So I want to focus on where I'm landing, and if I need to or have to regress enough, I can do the drill by looking and seeing exactly where I land. If I'm not quite good enough of knowing exactly where on the floor is, I can put tape down to have a target, okay, to hit that target so that when I do jump and land, okay, now I do want to make sure that the tape is where I would be jumping from. Because if I put it in places that I would not be, like let's say it's too narrow or too wide, I wouldn't be jumping from a natural position, which means I wouldn't be landing in a natural position. So if I have the tape mark or marks where I would be jumping from, and then if I work on my jumps, am I hitting those marks? Am I consistently coming down on those marks? Or am I getting off a little bit, like now I'm off, one foot slid in, one foot went forward, and now I'm not ready to re-jump. And in volleyball, it would be like go up for a block, Ball gets tipped in the air, and now I need to get higher and quicker to get that ball down from there. If I say step away, now I can still see where the targets are. I want to jump. Am I landing where I took off from? I should be landing in the same spot, because if my body travels forward, in volleyball I would hit the net. In basketball I could get caught up under someone who started jumping at the same time, and now I brush up against him or her and I don't get as high because I'm hitting their body with my body versus jumping free in space where I was free in space before. Okay? So, maybe you don't have tape available, or maybe you're in grass or sand when you do these. So you can do, if you have one cone available, you can just mark off where your feet are next to a cone, and you're going to get a pretty good idea of where you are. If you have two cones, you can put your feet right next to each cone. Make sure that you are jumping from a natural position. And then as you jump, are you landing in the same spot marked off where those cones are, or are you landing on a cone? And yes, for this drill with cones, we do like to use the soft cones that could squish down if necessary, just so that when we do land on them, they are squishable. Okay, you can also, not our favorite one to use, but we can use hurdles, because you can measure approximate distances with hurdles. Hurdles tend to be a little bit too wide for us to jump like this naturally. We could put one hurdle on the side, and jump like that. The only problem with that is if you do land improperly on a hurdle, you can break your hurdle. You could potentially land on the front, and we don't want that. Anything that increases risk of injury is something we want to avoid. We're not really big on hurting ourselves. Okay, so back on point. Any of these work, and I'm simply focusing on the landing versus worried about how high I'm jumping. A lot of times all we care about is, are you being powerful, or are we becoming conditioned better, meaning we're working on our conditioning. So we do repeated jumps, right? I know I'm not jumping very high, but we would get tired from our conditioning work of jumps. Now, instead of making those two goals the main focus, or the first priority focus, we focus on the landing, okay? Meaning, you reset and check. Reset and check every time, just so that you can start to understand lower body, upper body integrations, and are you feeling or getting used to that feeling of coordination of upper and lower body as you explode with your arms, explode with your hips, and explode with your knees and ankles. You can start to create that muscle memory of how you should feel while you're jumping, and then you start to get an understanding of how you feel, where your feet should be or will be when you land, okay? So that's our lesson for today. Understanding how to land and developing and working on that body control for landing actually will help you to become more athletic, more powerful, overall increase your athleticism, because you are developing the skills of sport. And by doing that, you're going to increase the likelihood you're going to, A, not make bad plays in volleyball, B, not get injured by traveling into someone and landing on their foot, which does happen a lot in sports, where you land and step on their top of their foot and you roll your ankle. If you're not traveling into them, you're less likely to do that. So that's all we have for today. I'm Spencer Aiken with the Stronger Together Performance Academy. Remember, if you do have any questions, we will answer your questions regularly. Maybe your question will make it specifically onto one of our lives, because we're here to help. We want to help you as our community grow, understand how to work with your athletes who might be your kids, your actual kids, the kids you're raising in your family, but also your other kids who we call kids, who are the teams that we coach and stuff. I got a little awkward. All right, anyway, that's all I have for today. You guys go out, be awesome, be amazing. Thank you.